I think that it's that these systems are only for big companies, large enterprises, even Salesforce. Um, I like to think of these things as essentially a box of Legos. Okay. So
Hmm.
you get the box of Legos. I can build a house. I could build maybe a little car, but I can also build a castle. I could build the Taj Mahal. I could build a bridge. So a lot of people, I think, are intimidated, or smaller businesses, but mainly might or who might be intimidated because the myth would be, well, Salesforce is really just for large organizations. That's really too much for us. We're buying more than we need. I would say think of it as um, you're not buying the Taj Mahal, you're buying the box of Legos and you get to build with it what you want. So it's extremely scalable.
Hey everyone, this is Devin Miller here with another episode of The Inventive Expert. I'm your host, Devin Miller, the serial entrepreneur that's grown several startups into 7 and 8 figure businesses, as well as a founder and CEO of Miller IP Law, where he helps startups and small businesses with their patents and trademarks. You ever need help with yours, just go to strategymeeting.com, grab some time with us to chat, and we're always here to help. Now, today we've got another great guest on the podcast, Ari Leeds. And Ari, we're going to be talking about a few things, including business automation and building software solutions, either or both products internally to the business and maybe taking them to market. And also talking a little bit about a CRM, or a customer relationship management software, and how you can use it and leverage that to grow and expand your business. So, with that much as an introduction, welcome on the podcast, Ari.
Thank you, Devin.
Absolutely, excited to have you on, and are looking forward to a good conversation. Now, before we dive into some of the topics at hand, just as a reminder to the audience, so Ari has been on our sister podcast, The Inventive Journey. So if you want to go check out his full journey there, definitely go make sure to go and take a listen. But for those that haven't had a chance to catch that episode yet, take a minute to just introduce yourself to the audience.
Yeah, sure. So Ari Leeds, I'm the founder and CEO of Lead Source, and we do focus pretty heavily on the Salesforce technology stack, and we help businesses with automating operations, getting better insight into their data, taking products to market, as you said. Um, been running with this business for about 4 years and been in the space for about 15 years.
Hmm. Awesome. Well, definitely excited and looking forward to a great conversation and a good discussion. So now, with that in mind, diving into some of the topics at hand. I mean, one of the ones that anybody that knows myself and or Miller IP Law, I'm a big proponent of automation. Now, automation, you have to be careful, because if you go overly automated, then it completely removes the person and the individual from the process. People don't feel like they're getting the value. It doesn't have a good relationship with them. And yet automation, if done right, can also be a great asset to the business to reduce costs, to make things more higher quality, more repeatable, and otherwise do it. So kind of walk us through, if you're or for businesses that looking into maybe getting into automation, how do you even go about figuring out if they should automate, or what they should automate, or how you tackle that, or kind of even go through go through that exercise?
Yeah. So first, I think, you make a great point. There is such a thing as over automating, and, people are an incredibly important part of the process. And it's not just, automating people out of a job so much as it is making sure, humans are still, at least for now, smarter than the machines. And it's incredibly important that we keep people in that process. I would say that, if you feel that you're doing just a lot of repeatable stuff. There's a lot of maybe links in the chain. A lot of, if you're using too many tools, maybe to get one process done, you want to look into it. If you feel like you have to hire um, lots of people, maybe to fill something that's more of a mechanical motion, you should think about it. If you're using lots and lots of spreadsheets, it's probably it. If you're drowning in spreadsheets, let's say, they have their place. They're a great tool, but you're not going to build a house with a Swiss Army knife. So if you're using lots of spreadsheets, you're probably due for some automation as well.
So now, and we work with a lot of startups and small businesses, and that's some of the audience. And I think that people at their core say, hey, I hate spreadsheets, or I don't want to use them, or I love to automate X, Y, and Z. And yet I think, some of the fears would be, hey, it may be too expensive. It's, less expensive just for me to hire a low wage, minimum wage, whatever you want to call it, individual, or even a VA or virtual assistant offshore, and have them do it than it is to automate. And I think, and or they're worried that they don't even know where to begin as far as, hey, where do I go about automating, or how do I figure out how to automate things? So kind of on those 2 points, both on kind of cost and is it worthwhile, or how do you figure out if you'll save enough, and also whether or not, which aspects to start automating. Any thoughts on that?
Yeah, so if there's a concern for human error, so if you're doing the type of thing where I'm taking, let's say, data out of one system or form and I'm copying it into another, simply because I have two completely disconnected systems, and it would be great if I could automate it, right? I have the user enter data into this form, and then it appears in all these other places where we need it. So something like that, um, we definitely want to think about automation, because we want the data to be right. Humans make typos all the time. So reducing lots of copies of data entry usually pays off pretty quickly, because a human being with their benefits and costs and overhead is pricey, especially nowadays in the United States. Sure, you do have some offshore options, but usually the price to make or to create a repeatable task in an automated sense, it usually pays for itself. It's usually cheaper than hiring a person. Now, if there's something more of like an approval process, something that repeats, but it's more of a human being signing off, or a high interaction, a high touch situation where you're interacting with customers a lot, then I think it's time to consider, hiring an actual person that's actually performing sanity checks. So I think it really depends on how um, it really depends on the process. If it's really keeping the data straight, automation is really the best way to go.
Hmm. No, and I agree. And I said, I think that there's definitely a place. And to your point, I think if you're doing a repetitive task over and over, especially for the ones that isn't high touch, doesn't have to, have a lot of human interaction, or you can, or even if you're not fully automating, reducing that so that you can spend, because I always like to say, what you do is automation allows you to free up your time so that you can spend more time with the client. You can interact with them more on the things that you can automate, or the things that do require your time and attention. And it always felt like it was a good balance to me. Hey, if I can free up my time to do so, then it works. It's a benefit to the client, as opposed to them feeling like they're losing that human touch.
Hmm.
Now, let's say, so you get a business to say, okay, I've figured out X, Y, and Z, whatever automation I want to, and I'll give you, just because I work in the legal industry, client intake. I need to get some basic information to set up the client, to run a conflicts of interest check, to get them invoice. A lot of that can be automated and fair, transparent. We do a lot of that automated, not in a bad way, but we get the information, they fill out a form, we have a system to run a check on them. We have another system that will invoice them, depending on if it's a flat fee or a matter. It will send them the invoice, it'll give them the forms they need to fill out for us to get the details. And so that we can build all of that in. But we've spent a considerable amount of time both figuring it out initially and building it internally, just because there wasn't anything else out there we were aware of, and also iterating on it to customize it to it. So now question is, do you build this with the intent of just going internal, or if you're solving a need within the industry, do you build something that you can take out to the marketplace, or do you do both or neither, or kind of walk us through how you make that decision?
Yeah, there's definitely some of both in there. Very often, I'll tell you. Well, so here's why there's really both. It's because, when working with so many different industries, you realize how different each business is, but also how alike they are. It's almost like if you were to if you were to look at a watch, you might see two totally different designs on the surface, but under the covers, it's all gears. It's all gears turning, right? So the fundamental components of getting things done, I find are very much the same. The working pieces underneath, under the covers, you have human beings, you have systems, you have processes. Um, but the way they're implemented may be unique to each business or to each industry. So certain things like maybe invoicing, task management, project management, um, can be quite repeatable across an industry or across multiple industries. Whereas, something that's more of a standard operating procedure within an individual business, how you do your work or even your secret sauce with your clients, how you manage your clients may be special and unique to you. So sometimes we will try to save you a lot of money and say, hey, we did this exact same thing. It's repeatable for you and it's plug and play. Sometimes it's, hey, there's this thing off the shelf already. It's a buy versus build conversation. And sometimes it makes sense to custom tailor things to you. If there's a user experience component to it, or it is your company's secret sauce, and you really want to own that intellectual property of the automation itself. So it can go a number of ways, and it's really going to depend on the individual need.
No, makes sense. And I like how you distinguish. I mean, if it's something to where it's internal and specific to your business, it probably doesn't have that value to others, or unless you're building out maybe a new model or a new system that you think that people are going to buy into. But if it's something you keep internally or not, but if it is something that everybody has that same pain point or everybody has to solve that, sounds like it'd be an area to potentially build it out. Now, I think some of the fears, I don't know, probably people don't realize or don't understand is you can, just because you solve a problem or you build out an automation doesn't mean it's going to sell itself. And I think sometimes people think, hey, if I build it out, it will sell itself, it will be perfect, and I won't ever have to, I'll just be able to go and make that money and get that, that return on it. If people were to say, hey, I've identified a problem, I've identified something that I think is repeatable, that everybody has to do within the industry, any thoughts or feedback as to if people build it out, how you make that bridge that gap between building it for yourself and using it versus taking it and selling it to others?
Yeah. So I think if you have identified a problem, an industry problem, you're probably on the right track to taking it to market, because a really good product manager is going to think about problems before solutions. I think the trap is where you have a solution in search of a problem, where you've built something cool, you've built something that works great for you, and it's your baby, so to speak. You might have a really great solution, but you haven't really thought about, is this an industry problem? Is this a problem I could take? Is this solving a problem I can take to market? And am I solving an actual problem, not just do I have a cool solution? And it's a trap that a lot of people can get into. And not to throw my engineering friends under the bus, but a lot of engineers, we're builders. So you build these things and you think, wow, look how great this is, look how cool this is, and it usually is. But doesn't mean everybody needs it, or everybody wants it. So really identifying, being very problem focused early on, if you are thinking about taking something to market beyond your own use, it is actually very critical.
No, I think that's definitely a good way to approach it and think about it. Now, maybe shifting gears just a little bit, just because there's so many things that would be fun to talk about and want to hit on as many as we can. One of the other things that I think that, depending on your level or your industry, your business, and your level of technology that you may implement within it, some people are very sophisticated and use CRMs to capture all the information and do, whether it's drip campaigns or email marketing or continue to contact people, and other people have no idea what a CRM even is or what it stands for. So maybe for those, that latter portion where people don't even know what it is or what it's, or, how to use it, walk us through a little bit. What is a CRM and kind of what are some of the uses to it?
Yeah. So CRM is customer relationship management. And yeah, there's definitely a knowledge gap, especially everywhere that's not California. It seems like CRM's plastered to every single park bench out there. But
Hmm.
Over here, yeah, there is a gap. I mean, like I said, there's a lot of people in spreadsheets still doing the type of stuff that you would do in a CRM without even realizing they've essentially built a CRM. And it's really about putting your customers and your customer data at the center, making a centerpiece of your business. So your interactions with that customer, the entire process of moving them from a lead and a prospect through the sales process, through post sales and customer management and support and services, and again, having that customer record is the central, really that central hub. If you could think of a hub and spoke of all the different types of interactions. So you don't have that customer existing in this system, that system, and that system. The customer is in one system, and those other aspects like customer support cases, deals, orders, assets, products that they've purchased from you, that those are all kind of revolving around that customer data, the business in a B2B world, and the individual contacts in both B2B and B2C scenarios. So anywhere where you're tracking your customers, that's your CRM. You want it to be as, but you don't want to, you don't want that customer's information in 7 different places. You want it at the center. So when you're looking at them, you've got the 360-degree view of all of your interactions with them.
Now, and I think that's definitely a great explanation. Now, one of the or can be a difficulty is that people say, "Great, I'd love to capture all my client information, get their phone numbers and their addresses and emails, and be able to, reach out to them properly, and not to spam them or bug them, but to give them reminders, let them or give them updates on whether it's sales or doing other things, and or continue to interact or give them updates on what's going on with their product or their service or different things." And yet a lot of times it's, either they don't have the system in place, or they don't know how to go about setting up a CRM, or they don't know how to entice their customers to provide that information or anything of that nature. So let's say you are interested in getting a CRM, just at the very basic level to get or to onboard clients to get their information. How do you go about doing that in a way that is a good user experience or good customer experience?
Yeah, there's a lot of options out there now. We specialize in Salesforce, which is, the biggest player, but there's all these other options that are a little bit less intimidating for people to start with. HubSpot has a free CRM. There's, Monday.com has come out with one. Microsoft has their Dynamics suite, but that's more of an enterprise level one, more similar to Salesforce. So there's a number of different ones out there. Of course, Google is your friend. You probably Google CRMs and get a whole list of them, but it really depends where you want to take it. So if you're really looking for that kind of simple Rolodex, I want my accounts and my contacts. I want to send out some emails, and I don't want this to become a technological burden for me at this point. It's good to start looking at those smaller ones. Probably, I think HubSpot is a really great entry point. Also because their data is conducive to moving into bigger systems if you need to later. But most of those others do have very friendly user interfaces out of the box. They have guided tours. So you shouldn't be intimidated by them, especially these more entry level ones. It's definitely worth exploring, and they integrate with everything. I'm sure a lot of people are very used to log in with Google, or if you got an app that asks you to log in with your Google account, things like that. So these systems have become very streamlined over the years, and they're not as intimidating as they used to be. And I forget who said it, but it's a quote that always stuck with me. Was technology takes the technology out of technology. So, these companies have spent a lot of money on making these experiences lighter and friendlier and more approachable. So your email's integrated, your phone line can be integrated, your data. It's much easier to get set up without lots of professional help and training.
Also, no, makes perfect sense, and sounds like it's not as scary or cumbersome as people might anticipate now. What, there's plenty of usage, and I touched on maybe a few, but let's say you get that CRM set up, you're starting to get some of that information, you're populating it. What are some of the different applications or ways that people tend to go about using it, or how do they leverage it to assist their business?
Yeah. So again, keeping the customer as the centerpiece is the main part. You're always starting with the customer. And now, you get off the phone with them, that call is logged there. You want to remind yourself to follow up with them. It's logged right there against that record in a very, very, pretty much clean and obvious way. Then you can go in different directions. I think there's there's the marketing side of it, right? Which is, it could be pre-customer experience or top of the pipeline, you might think of it. You might be attacking through campaign. Attacking might be the wrong word. You're accessing folks through campaigns, maybe email marketing, maybe conferences, through a number of different channels, maybe advertising as well. So some CRMs are more conducive to that kind of marketing and interaction experience. I think HubSpot's a great example of that. They're more set up to put the customer at the center, give you a lot of marketing capabilities out of the box, very simple. But then also the sales process is very important. How do I know what my pipeline looks like? What deals am I working on with them? What products am I selling them? What products have I sold them in the past? What's their favorite baseball team? So that I can send them tickets. So it's really it becomes the centerpiece of all of your business interactions. I will almost think of it as a business operating system. It's where you can go in and spend your day to figure out either what you need to do that day, and record your interactions. And it's kind of your master book, really, going forward. It can be the centerpiece of your business.
Awesome. Well, definitely there's some great ways to leverage it, utilize it, and I think there's a lot of opens up a lot of possibilities for a lot of business to continue to healthily interact with their businesses. So, well, now as we're already wrapping towards the end of the episode, and it seems like we just barely scratched the surface. So we'll have to have you back on to one of our sister podcasts. But at least for today's episode, always like to wrap up with the same question, which is, within your industry, what is the biggest myth and why is it wrong?
So I've got a couple of these. I'm going to try to keep it, without going off the rails here. I think that it's that these systems are only for big companies, large enterprises, even Salesforce. I like to think of these things as essentially a box of Legos. Okay. So you get the box of Legos. I can build a house. I could build maybe a little car, but I could also build a castle. I could build the Taj Mahal. I could build a bridge. So a lot of people, I think, are intimidated, or smaller businesses, but mainly who might be intimidated because the myth would be, well, Salesforce is really just for large organizations. That's really too much for us. We're buying more than we need. I would say think of it as you're not buying the Taj Mahal, you're buying the box of Legos, and you get to build with it what you want. So it's extremely scalable. You can take it from small all the way to large. It grows with your business. And it just kind of comes with the kit of everything you need. So I would say that don't be intimidated, and it really it's maybe one size fits all is too much, but the myth would definitely be that it's only for large enterprise. It really isn't. It can help the smallest of businesses, the 1 or 2 person shop, even become highly optimized, automated, and just organized and clean for the future operations of their business.
No, I love it. I think that's a great myth to dispel, and definitely, I think sometimes people think, well, I'm not big enough, or I'm not of the right size, or we don't have X, Y, and Z, and so it's not for us. And yet, there's a wide range of things that that people can leverage for their business and otherwise help to grow it and expand it and run it better no matter the size. So I think that's a great myth to dispel. Well, now as we wrap up the episode, if people want to reach out to you, they want to be a customer, they want to be a client, they want to be an employee, they want to be an investor, they want to be your next best friend, any or all of the above, what's the best way to reach out to you, contact you, find out more?
Yeah. So I would say, our website's the best way to do it. We have a contact us form. So we're at leadsource.com, LEEDSSOURCE. That contact us form goes to multiple people, and we're always on top of it. Of course, you can find me on LinkedIn, and I'll give out my phone number, which, is fine too. Not a lot of people use the phone these days, but we definitely take phone calls. We're at 617-500-7966. So we'd be happy to pick up the phone, take your call too.
Awesome. Well, I definitely encourage people to reach out, make a new connection, support a great business. If nothing else, make a new best friend. So with that, thank you again, Ari, for coming on the podcast. It's been a pleasure. Now, for all of you, their listeners that are out there, if you can help us to share this expertise with even more startups and small businesses by clicking share, subscribe, and leaving us a review, really does help us to support those other small businesses out there by sharing this expertise. And on that note, if along your journey you ever need help with anything or with patents or trademarks or anything else with your startup or your small business, just go to strategymeeting.com, grab some time with us to chat, and we're always here to help. Well, thank you again, Ari, for coming on the podcast, and wish the next leg of your journey even better than the last.
Thanks, Devin. My pleasure.